Welcome to Kronos Gaming. Today's video is going to be all about the life of an engineer in Hell Let Loose. We're going to go over the loadouts, the nodes, supplies, defensive structures, and more. Out of respect for your time, I have provided you with timelines so you can jump to the sections that interest you the most. So let's get started. Alright, now we'll be going over the class loadouts by level and country. I'm going over each level country by country and see what kind of primary weapon and utility they have. So first up, United States, we got our M1 carbine, 12 magazines, 2 bandages, a wrench, hammer, torch, 2 anti-personnel mine, 1 anti-tank mine, and a melee weapon, which is a knife. The utility side is same for all countries for the level 1 loadout. Okay, next up, Germans. We got the Karabiner 98K with 12 magazines. Moving on to Soviet Union, we got Mosin Nagant 9130, 12 magazines as well. And the British got the Smelly #1 Mark III with 6 magazines. Now let's check out the level 3 loadouts, which is the Sapper or Pioneer loadouts. Back to United States, and let's see what we have. Okay, we have a M97 trench gun with a 6-round tubular magazine. It's an awesome shotgun. I recommend you try it out. 2 bandages, 2 anti-personnel mines, 2 smoke grenades, the famous Satchel hammer, and a knife again. So the utility side is going to be same again across the countries. German level 3 loadout has a MP40 with 6 magazines. Soviets have the same Mosin Nagant as they had in level 1 with 6 magazines. The British have the rifle #4 Mark I with 6 magazines. Now moving on to level 6 loadouts, which is the field engineer loadouts. Only 2 countries have these, being the United States, which we have right here, and they have the M3 grease gun with 6 magazines. For the utility side, we got 2 bandages, a wrench, a hammer, 2 grenades, 2 smoke grenades, torch, and a M3 knife. As you can see, Germans don't have level 6. Soviets do not have it either. And for the British, we got the Sten gun Mark V with 5 magazines. And those were the loadouts. Now let's load into a game and see what our role is really about. Alright, so you're loading into a game as an engineer. You really have only one priority that you need to be focusing on right from the bat. And that is going to be building a set of resource nodes. So first thing you want to do when you join a game is you're going to want to check on your map how many sets of nodes have been built. So if we zoom in over here, we can see that there is a set of nodes here. You see? Manpower node, munitions node, and a field node. A team can build maximum of 3 sets of nodes. So with this example, we have 1 set already built here. That means that our team can build and should build 2 more to yield the maximum amount of resources as possible. You see, each resource node generates 10 resources a minute. Resource nodes are important part of the game as they generate resources every minute for your commander so that he can use different abilities, which I'm going to show you right away. So you can see how important it is to create momentum and have more map control in the game. So we went over what the nodes are. Here I will show you what the commander can do with the resources that you are providing. We'll highlight for you where you can check how many resources your team currently has, and we'll go over the resources as we go. Here you can see what kind of abilities the commander can use with manpower. Can establish airheads, dismantle garrisons, reinforce the point, use encouragement, which will double the resource generation for 5 minutes. He can use the manpower resource to generate fuel or generate munitions. Now, for the munitions part, which you can see here, commander can drop ammunition boxes, drop supplies, run a recon plane over the map, do a precision strike, do a strafing run, do a bombing run, generate fuel or manpower. The fuel, which is right here on the right side, commander can spawn a half track, which can be used as a spawning point, can spawn light tank, spawn a medium tank, spawn a heavy tank, spawn a transport truck, supply truck, a jeep, recon tank. Again, convert the resources, convert manpower or munitions. So you can see right away why these resources are important. These can all enable the gameplay. So first question would be, where do I build them? And the answer to that is actually really simple. The best practice is to build your set of nodes within the first 2 columns or rows, depending on the map of your side, your HQ. First 2 columns. Why do you want to build them here? It's very simple, because if the enemy advances forward and forward, let's say they're about to capture the drowned fields. It's actually a good example. If the enemy is about to capture the drowned fields, and let's say we have one more set of nodes right here on the C5 and one more at, let's say, C7, that would mean that we would lose all 3 sets of our nodes. Because if the enemy captures a zone, all respawn points and all resource nodes get automatically destroyed. So if our HQ is the last point, is our last line of defense, it only makes sense to build the resource nodes in those 2 columns, because we don't want the enemy to destroy them by capturing a zone. So now that you know where you should build your nodes, we should go to the next question, which is, how do I build them? And for that, there is 3 options, but you're going to need supplies for each of them. So our first option is going to be using a supply truck. Fortunately, we got one right here in the HQ where they normally are. And on your map, you can find the symbol of a supply truck. It looks like that. So you can easily identify it. So you're gonna want to jump in. The first thing you want to check is how many supply crates you currently have in this truck. Right now we have 2 supply crates, so we're good to go. At minimum, we would need 1 supply crate, but 2 is even better. So now we're going to make our way to the second line, which is going to be the first place where you will be able to drop your supply box and start constructing your nodes. We're on the second line now. See, if I try to drop them right now, I can't, but if I go a little bit forward, I can drop the supplies. So why I'm doing this is because if we go back now a little bit, look where we are. We are within the first columns, or our HQ, if you were to say like that. And this would be the first place where we can build our nodes when we would use a supply truck. Because with the supply truck, we cannot drop the supplies within the first 2 columns. Once you dropped your supplies and you're in position, you're gonna want to start building your nodes. To build your nodes, it's really simple. Your wrench, do a right click which will open this interface of different blueprints that you can do. We'll be going over them later, but we're right now interested in the nodes. The resource node, fuel, manpower, and munitions. So let's drop these blueprints right here. Now I'm going to hold down the left mouse button to start constructing it. Moving back a little bit to place the manpower node blueprint. Moving a little bit to the side to maybe put the munitions node right here. So now we got the blueprints in place. To actually finish building them, we're gonna need to take out our hammer and then just hold down the left mouse button until it's built. Each resource node requires 50 supplies, and also you need to be within 50 meters of the supplies you have to actually use them. So once you have built your set of nodes, you probably want to put down a couple anti-personnel mine. Just put them down where you think the enemy might approach from. And once you have done doing that, I would suggest that you take this truck and bring it back to the base. So we brought our truck back to the left HQ. I'm gonna stop the engine and hop out, and this is gonna be for the next engineer to take. Option 2 of building nodes is pretty straightforward. If you see that there are no supply trucks in any of the HQs and you can't be bothered to go out of your way to get another supply truck from the other side of the map or request for it, you can deploy as a support. As a support, you have a box of supplies which contains 50 supplies. Now once we drop that, we are going to redeploy as an engineer. Okay, now we deployed as an engineer, and we can now use the same box of supplies that we just dropped here. This is 50 supplies, which means that we can build one node. So what we want to build first is going to be manpower node. This is simply because the cooldown of your support class supplies is 5 minutes by default. But since you will be building the manpower node first, that means that your support class supplies cooldown is cut in half to 2.5 minutes. This means that you can finish your remaining nodes twice as fast. Now let's repeat the process 2 times to finish our set of nodes inside our own HQ. So we just spawned in once again as a support. We can drop the supplies again because they have come off cooldown already. I've been rambling. And we drop the supplies again. We're gonna redeploy as an engineer. We got our supplies right here. Let's go to our nodes and build the second one. Since you're normally doing this at the start of each game, I would suggest that you pick the fuel node next, because fuel is a very valuable commodity in the early stages of the game, especially because we need to get out that heavy armor as soon as possible. So let's finish this fuel node right away so we can start generating more of that resource. Once the fuel node is done, let's redeploy once again as a support and drop another box of supplies. As you can see, my supplies are almost coming out of a cooldown, which means we can drop them again. You will see a small little sign on the right hand side like that, which means our supplies are now ready. We can drop them again. 50 supplies dropped, and now let's redeploy again as an engineer to build our third and final node. Now let's build the final node, which is going to be the munitions node. I'm going to put it right here. Let me deploy that blueprint so we can start building it. And there we go. This is a set of nodes without using a supply truck or somebody else's supplies. You did it all by yourself, but it's possible to do it with your team. So just ask help for people to cycle supplies with you. That way it's a little bit faster. And now for the third option. So let's say you spawned in and you want to build a set of nodes, but you don't want to recycle your supplies and you just want to go build them, right? So you start looking at the map where there are resources you can use. Maybe some other engineer has already left some supplies on the outskirts of the second line, which is our HQ and which is where we want to build our nodes, right? So if you look here, we can see that there is actually a supply box dropped. We could go for this. And another option would be to check the other supply drops, right? We can see that there's supplies here, but that's too far away. We don't want to build our nodes there. We can see that there are supplies in Saint Marie, but it's only 100, and it's probably from a commander's supply drop, which is most likely used to build garrisons and such. You don't really want to use those supplies because otherwise other squad leaders will not have an easy way to set up a new garrison. Same thing in the fields here. It's our last point and it would make sense to put a garrison right here on the fields. So we wouldn't really want to use those 100 supplies to build 2 nodes. Instead, what the best option would be here in this case is that we would redeploy to the mid HQ and run all the way here, which 150 supplies have already been dropped by some engineers, so we can use those to build our set of nodes here somewhere. That's also an option. So we don't have to use a supply truck, we don't have to recycle our supplies, we can just go and build it. Super simple. Now let's talk about, can these nodes be destroyed by enemies and how can they do it? First way for your nodes to be destroyed by the enemy is if the enemy would satchel it. And I will show you a clip right now of me doing that. So I found a set of enemy nodes on some other game. Decided to put a satchel on it because the blast radius is just that big, so it will destroy all 3 of them. And just like that, all the nodes are destroyed. Second one would be when enemy manually dismantles your nodes, which I will show you a clip as well. Here we were playing as a recon with my buddy, and we found a set of enemy nodes. Dismantling them manually takes a minute. If you do it together, it's 30 seconds. So we started dismantling, and my buddy just ran into a mine.
Oh, knew it.
Which is unfortunate, but that's why you should plant your mines always. And the third way that your nodes can be destroyed is that an enemy commander drops a bombing run on it. This is very rare and you shouldn't really worry about it. Realistically, no commander is gonna waste a bombing run on nodes, but just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to show you that it is possible to do it. So let's stay here. Now let's go check it out if they are still alive or not. See, all of the nodes that were built here are now gone. So to confirm that, yes, you can destroy nodes with a bombing run, or a Katyusha for that matter. So we talked about enemy dismantling your nodes manually. There is actually a way for you to prevent enemies from dismantling your nodes manually. And let me show you how to do this, right? So let's say you're gonna build your node. And for this method, you're gonna want even ground as you can possibly get. See, we got a pretty even ground right here. So we're gonna start building your nodes. For this particular method, you are going to need 2 supply boxes. And then we are going to construct all 3 of our nodes and then get to the fun part. Next thing you're gonna do is you're gonna place barbed wire around it. I suggest starting with the blueprints first because you want to make sure that there's no way in hell that they're gonna get through by foot. So you just want to make sure that it all fits nicely together, that there are no openings anywhere. And then once your blueprints are all good, then you start building it. Okay, let's finish those barbed wires. Trust me, the small extra effort that you're putting in here is so worth it. I mean, check out this nightmare. You can't get in there by foot anymore, but there is one way you can get in there, and I will show you. And for that, you're gonna need a vehicle, and you're gonna drive the vehicle straight through the barbed wire. So if you exit the vehicle, you're gonna be inside the barbed wire. And now you can dismantle the nodes and drive out of there if you want. I have built close to 100 nodes like this, and there has maybe been 5 times when the nodes have been dismantled. It's just that people don't know about how to get inside, or they just won't bother because it's so annoying and so effective. Now, let's talk about other structures you can build. If you like building fortifications, then you first have to take into consideration where to build them. Most of the times you're going to want to build fortifications in the back lines or in the last 2 points. That way you can build the defenses without getting killed and wasting your time. You can build a lot of things that serve as an area denial for the enemy troops and vehicles. You got barbed wire, you got barricades, you got a bunker. You can even use the hedgehogs or Belgian gates to block the enemy movement. You got all kinds of structures you can build, and how you're going to piece them together is pretty much up to your imagination. Ideally, just want your defensive structures to be so good that the enemy cannot just comfortably walk in and start doing whatever they want. So let's quickly go over how much resources you need to build those structures from start to finish. First off, barricades. Yeah, barricades are in 3 tiers. First tier is 25, second tier is 50, and third tier is 75 supplies. So that sums up to 150 supplies, which means it's a 1 supply box from your supply truck. Then we got the bunker, which you can build. Bunker requires 75 supplies for the tier 1, 125 supplies for the tier 2, and 150 supplies for the tier 3, which sums up to 350 total. So you're gonna need quite a few supply boxes to build it from start to finish, at least 3. The best bunker is actually built by the Germans, which can protect you from explosions, tank shells, and even artillery at its tier 3. So take that into consideration when you're an engineer on the German side. Then you can build a repair station, which is 100 supplies, and that's useful to build it next to some points sometimes, because friendly vehicles or armor can ride next to it and they will just get automatically repaired. It's especially good for tank squads because the crewmen don't have to exit the tank to repair the tank. They can stay inside. Then you can build barbed wire, which costs you 10 supplies per barbed wire. Super effective, very quick to build, and you can accomplish a lot with them because you got 4 of them at your disposal. Now for the roadblocks, if you're on the US side or the British side, then you got the hedgehogs. Hedgehogs are 25 supplies each, and you can build 3 of them. But if you're on the German side, then you got the Belgian gates. Belgian gates, you can build 2 of them, and those are 30 supplies each. Even though you might think it's meant for the enemy armor, you can use that to block infantry on occasions, or even go on top of them actually to get the elevated view of what's going on. Building fortifications takes quite a while, but it's fun when you have 2 or 3 other engineers to do it together with, so you can build massive fortifications. But do keep in mind, if an enemy places a satchel charge near your fortifications, then that can blow everything up. But the cool thing is that you also have a satchel charge pretty early on at level 3. This means that you're able to do all kinds of shenanigans once you have finished building your nodes and or other defensive structures. You can use your satchel charges on enemy tanks, other vehicles, enemy fortifications, nodes, garrisons, airheads, or even on some houses or other hotspots where lots of enemies are in close proximity. Satchel can be set to have a fuse time of 30, 60, or 120 seconds and have a blast radius of a whopping 25 meters, so make sure you get away as far as possible. Satchels ignore wall collision and will destroy absolutely everything caught in this radius. Regardless, whenever you decide to satchel, always think it through and always make sure you communicate to your team that there's a satchel placed and they should move away. You don't want to blow up your own squads. Engineer role is very important and holds high value amongst the players because you can effectively generate resources that the commander needs, build fortifications for infantry support, and blow things up with your satchels and mines. Engineer is super chill. Once your nodes are built, you're pretty much able to do whatever you want. Generally, nobody's going to give you a hard time. Whether it's to build fortifications, hunt for enemy armor or structures, or just play with your squad leader, it's up to you. But always act in the best interest of your team. If you have made it this far, then drop a like and subscribe as it helps my channel grow, and comment what guide would you like next. And as always, thanks for watching and I'll see you on the battlefield.